Okay, we are going to get started. Everyone, thank you guys for joining today. I have Serri on the line with us to talk about building a world renowned team with Ryan Grant. So, you guys, go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you for being here today. This is our seventh version of our coaching workshop series that we have done. And as we've done on all previous ones, we have brought in some renowned real estate professionals to help us with some of these topics. And that is definitely the case today. So I want to introduce Serri Rowell. Serri is with our team down in San Diego. And Serri, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and saying hello, and just thank you again for being here.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Kind of flattered. So I have a team in San Diego. We are actually growing outside of San Diego, so we do have agents now in Riverside, and I have an agent in Orange County as well. So we're seeing some expansion, which is exciting. And personally, I've been in real estate for over 20 years, and our team name is the Brand Realty. Kind of have a story about all the names that we've had, but that is our name and that is not going to change. So we are the Brand Realty, brokered by Real. Yeah.
Love that. We have some similarities with brand changes. So
Yes.
I know the feeling there. Um, so everyone, today's coaching workshop series is about how to build a world-renowned real estate team, and Serri and her team have done just that, which is why we're extremely excited to have them on today. So when you think about starting in this business, and I know there's lenders on this call and obviously real estate professionals, but when we start in this business, we're typically alone, right? We either succeed on our own or we fail on our own. And most people, unfortunately, in our industries fail on their own. Um, and a lot of it could be ego, could be pride, but more often than not, people don't necessarily want to join a team, or they grow and they have a hard time starting a team just because there's no MBA in real estate or mortgage financing. And I remember when I was coming up and growing my team, one of my counterparts in my office looked at me and said, he said, man, I see how big of a team you have and how much of a hassle and headache that is and just how hard you work. He goes, I don't want to do that. He goes, I just want to stay small. I want to, I'm making good enough money and I'm happy the way I am. And I said, yeah, teach their own, right? Fast forward, 3 years later, and he has a pretty big team. So I look at him, I was like, hey, what happened to that whole not wanting to go a team thing? He was like, I had to. And it clicked, right? Like if you're really good at what you do, right? If you're really valuable as a real estate or mortgage professional, you don't have a choice, right? You don't get to not scale or grow, right? You have two choices. You either have to scale, grow, and figure out how to help more families, or you just have to say no to people. And you start saying no to enough people, your business will go away entirely,
Hmm.
right? So, this is something that people really struggle with, right? Most people get in that roller coaster of, go out and get new business, and then they have to work on the fulfillment, and then they're not prospecting, and then they ride this roller coaster every 3 to 6 months, and there's usually 3 or 4 of those productivity cycles per year. So, Serri, I'd love to just start with you, maybe telling us a little of your story, how you started from a sole practitioner to the amazing team you've built today, and some of the things that if someone's listening to this now, whether thinking of starting a team or joining a team, what advice you'd give them early on that you wish you would have known back then, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah. So I always like to kind of say that my team actually started outside of real estate. I'm a mom of 5 boys. So when
Ah,
you have, and I started really young, and you're a dad too, Ryan, right? Like you get this. So when you have kids, or from in my case, a lot of kids, you basically have to run a team. You have to be very organized. You have to make sure that you know what's going on with all of them at all times. But the other thing is you have a lot of help. It takes a village. It truly does to create that environment to raise them properly. And so for me, I remember when I got to the point. So I've been in real estate for over 20 years, and I remember when I got to the point of saying, okay, exhausted. I had more business than I could handle. And I don't really know that it was for me saying that I was turning away business. I mean, I probably was, but I think I was actually trying to service the business to the extent that I was my health was starting to be affected because I wanted to make sure that I was giving high service all the time, and I couldn't give that anymore without impacting my own health. There was days where I was like, I just can't get out of bed today. Like I literally could not get out of bed. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, unfortunately.
And so how do you do that stuff? And for me, again, having my boys and raising a family and, really taking a lot of that on myself and also relying on other people, it was maybe a little bit easier for me to see the vision of saying, hey, you know what? I can build something that will be sustainable and it will be able to provide for not only myself, but for other people. And I won't lie in saying that I definitely woke up a few mornings going, what in the world am I doing? Like, this is actually going to be a lot of stress on me and it's all eyes on me. But for me personally, it's been one of the best decisions ever because it was either get out of the business and I don't know what I was going to do altogether or start building something. So that started for me in 2017. We started building the team. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I can definitely understand the pressure, right? Because it starts being your business initially, right? And then it starts feeling like it's not my business anymore. It's something else. It's something else has taken over. Like you've hit that tipping point where if you don't scale, you're going to start to let a lot of people down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's the last reason we got in this business, right? We wanted to help people in so many ways. So I can definitely understand that. So let's move into the strategic part of this real quick. And then I want to get a little more step by step in terms of how you've done it. I think if we talk about the why first and then the how second, it will help a lot of people with the context of the importance of this. So I've always talked about, the real estate and mortgage industry are absolutely heading towards team mentalities, right? But knowing what you've built and the incredible team you've built today, what can you tell clients? Like, what's your advantage of what you can offer clients, your commitment to them that you just know yourself as a solo agent could never commit to?
Mm-hmm. So I remember back in the day when, for example, as a solo agent, I'd get a listing and then I would go, now what? And I'm a checklist person. I do like checklists and I like to build things out. I love systems. I love building things. But I remember sitting there almost frozen. So you leave that listing appointment so pumped up, right? You're like, I got the listing. And then you literally are like, now what? And there's so many things that you have to do following that. It's incredible. And so, to have the leverage of a team to be able to say, like on our team, we have a listing coordinator, for example. And so that listing coordinator has a checklist of things that they can do. I mean, from ordering the termite to getting the prelim ordered to getting the photographer over there to getting a stager. I mean, there's so many things that you have to do on your checklist. And so that's just one piece of the leverage that you have. And I remember going on appointments going, yeah, there's teams out there, but they're going to have so many different people and I'm solo and I'm going to give you all my attention because I'm trying to sell that.
Sure.
Yeah. And I could do that, but then I can't do very many listings personally off of that.
Yeah.
And so really for me to go bigger picture, you need to have support and you need to have leverage. And, I think that there's agents out there that get it because they've been in that seat and they know. And then there's agents who maybe have started their career on a team and they don't know any different. And kudos to them to go to a team first. That's great. You don't know the difference, but there's so much that you have to take on as a solo agent to really be able to like have the bigger numbers and do bigger things. So for me, obviously I have, lots of kids, like bigger is better for me. And so I just want to make sure that I'm doing it in a way though, where I have the support to back it up properly. And so that's the difference, if you're solo or if you're if you have a team, you have the leverage. You have leverage in so many different ways. And we're always building out more leverage. And I had an agent just recently who said, one of the things that I love about the team is that we have showing help. I mean, I remember being like, I can't go anywhere because I have nobody to help show homes. And we have channels where people can just say, hey, I need somebody in the area, I need help. And so everybody just helps each other. Just something as simple as that.
Yeah.
Is incredible.
Yeah. The team concept is so powerful. And so I was just thinking through, I recently sold my first piece of real estate, and I, bought a new home and all that kind of stuff. And so thinking through this, right, I kind of wrote down a list. And so I'll just read it quickly, right? You have the pre-listing evaluation of the home, pricing, staging, data, analysis, research. You have financial transition plan for that person to help them figure out what they're going to do, how they're going to get into their new home. That's working with your mortgage partner as a real estate professional. The listing preparation, pre-marketing photos, videos coming soon, broker previews, mega open house or open house strategy, buyer conversion strategy, offer review, negotiations, acceptance, contractual due diligence throughout the whole thing. Then you have to help that person find their new home, right? Research and acquire their new home. You have new home showings and negotiations on that new property, how you're going to get their offer accepted, right? Work on an offer acceptance strategy. Then you have contractual due diligence through that one. So if I'm sitting there, if Serri comes to me and tells me she's going to do all these things, all I'm thinking is, man, how many people do you have on your team? Right? Like, how are you able to do all this? It seems like a ton. And I'm super excited that you're going to do all that for me because other agents haven't really talked about it. And if you don't have a team, your only answer is, I do it all by myself and you're my only client.
Yes.
And nobody wants to hear that, right? What they want to hear is all of that will get done, and it will get done phenomenally. And it will get done in a way that is supportive and in value to you. And I have a great team of people that are going to help support me. I'm going to do what I do best, and my team will do the other thing. So I just think a great real estate team will always outperform an individual agent. And if an individual agent starts that way, it's okay. You just can't stay that way. So getting into the evolution of your team, one of the things I tell agents a lot is the first people on your team don't actually necessarily need to be paid by you. Right? They can be lenders, title and escrow, stagers, contractors. Like, you can have a whole, photographers, videographers. You can have an entire team that is not on your payroll, but are people that you depend on day in and day out, week in and week out. What was the evolution of that for you in your realization of like, okay, I need to surround myself with kind of an ancillary team, right? And then I can start building my internal team. How did that work for you?
I don't know if I actually paused and thought that to myself that I had a team. I think the concept of team was that you had these people on payroll. And so that's kind of more what traditionally people think. So I didn't really think of that when I was solo, but the fact of the matter is, like, I had a TC, right? So really, and by the way, everybody who's solo, you really should at least have a TC. Like, if you're doing that paperwork, I think I did it once, and that was back in the day when we had paper files that we had to turn into the brokerage.
Yeah.
I think I did it once, and I was like, this is not for me at all. You're spending way too much time on that stuff. I mean, I think you need to leverage that out. But really, the truth is I did have a team. And then, the partners that I had, of course, I used the same escrow company typically, or I used the same title and all that stuff. And those people really were a team. I just didn't think of it that way. So those of you that are solo that are listening to this, you do have a team, unless you're doing your own TC work, which I advise you you stop doing that. But so take that stuff, like, you have your own personal websites. I started back in the day when websites were just getting going and stuff, but you have your website now, and you put those people on your website. Like, say that you have that as a team. Like, that's smart. If you just have your photo on there, I would recommend that you put these people on there, and really, because here's the thing, clients nowadays, they go on and they do their research online, and they're going to check you out, or they're going to find you online. and they don't know anything. They don't know the difference. To them, that's people, those are faces, and that's a team. So you do have a team.
Yeah, I love that. We're fortunate to be on a lot of our partners' sites, and it just adds an extra layer of credibility, right? Because they can see how connected they are in different areas. And team, one thing I've been saying a lot recently, I read this a while back, is that you want to surround yourself, especially in today's environment, you want to surround yourself with people that remind you more of the future than of the past. And so if you look at you call it affiliate partners, business partners, whatever you want to call them, right? Not people on your payroll. Ask yourself, are they pushing me to be better, or am I pulling them along? Because what you don't want is a lending resource. What you don't want is an escrow and title resource or a contractor or a photographer. You want partners. You want people that, when you get the ball and you throw it, they're there with their glove out, right? And they know exactly what to do with it from there, and they move. So just think through, like, do you literally have partners in the business who are helping you with lead generation, lead acquisition, lead conversion? Who are helping you with, past client retention and management of database? We're helping you with, marketing and farming, like all the things you need to be doing as an agent. How good is your lender, your title, your escrow, your home stage, your contractor, photographer? How good are those people? And are they pushing you and, elevating your business, or at least keeping up? Right. But if they're just there because they do a good job, you really want to, kind of rethink that strategy. Anything you would add to that, Serri?
I also think that you should make sure that you're leveraging them. Also you could, so for events or different things that you're
Yeah.
doing like that, make sure you're leveraging them financially, because typically it starts with the real estate agent with the consumer. And so you're giving these people a lot of business. And so it's really good to have partnerships where they can help sponsor your growth and things that you're doing. So don't feel like you have to take all of that on. Like, you should bring these people in, and they should be willing to.
100%. It's just like any good business, or as an investor, I would want to invest in any good business, right? Especially if I'm a partner in that business, right? Then you want to kind of reinvest profits there. So totally understand that.
Yeah.
So Serri, if you don't mind, let's get into some of the process of building a team, right? So you have your team of external partners. What was next for you to start building your actual team? You had your TC, and it was you. What did you have to learn about yourself? Did you learn about yourself before hiring people, or did you learn about yourself after hiring people? What were the steps you took, and what would you have done differently kind of in your first initial couple hires?
Yeah, so I actually had to, and the TC that I had for many years, we're still great friends. Um, I actually had to let that TC go though, because that TC I knew wasn't in, again, great TC, but just wasn't in that lane like you were talking about earlier, that was going to be ready for what I had in my vision going forward for how many people and things that I was going to be bringing. And so I actually had to let go of the TC that I had. And, when, so a lot of you out there, because I was there, you're thinking, how do I build a team? Like, where is the manual? What do I do? Where do I start? And then you probably see people like me, or, I mean, there's other people that are even larger than me, and I look up to them because I want to get to that level. So there's people out there that maybe look at me and go, how do I get there? And go in increments. Don't try to like take it all on at once, because if you do, you're going to say, I'm not doing any of this. But I had to start. So I have a good friend of mine who I met up with. Her name's Tina King, and I've known her for a long time. And I was lucky enough to have basically a coach who's a friend of mine that taught me how to do this. And she's on my team with me today, and she's a key player on our team, but she knew how to do this. And so she came to me, and we were both a bit broken, to be honest, because she came from a role that she didn't want to be in, and I came from a role that I was getting exhausted in. And we said, you know what, let's put this together. And so I remember her saying, just pile it all on me. Just like pile everything on me. We'll figure this out, And so I started piling on all of my clients to her so that I could go and start building a system. And for anybody that knows me, I'm a kind of a big geek with systems. I love systems. I love building things. Like, I can also, it's kind of an interesting person that I can get in front of people too and socialize and do all that stuff as well. But I love building things. But it's really hard to build those things when you have the distractions of clients, because it's like two parts of your brain. So I was able to start unloading things on her, and then I could start to sit down and really go through and start organizing and creating systems. So my situation might be a little bit different than others that may not have that person. But if you don't have that person, find a coach, get a coach, invest in a coach, go online and watch. There's so much stuff now, even from 4 years ago, that you can go online and you can watch people like what we're doing right now. And they'll tell you these steps on how to do this manual that's out there. So anyways, and then after that, we hired a TC who is also an assistant. So, that's kind of going into the line of hires of how you should start bringing people in. We got more agents in. I don't know how far you want me to go in, like, kind of the structure of that, but it's when I say I'm building a team, I say I'm building a team. I say I'm building a house of bricks. I want to build a team that is solid. The Three Little Pigs. Like, I want that house. I want the house of bricks. I don't want a house that is just kind of like shooting in the dark and throwing it out there and all of a sudden it's going to fall apart. I want to actually build a solid system that we can, stand the test of time on with stuff. So it really just leveraged me to be able to start building that stuff. And now I think we have 10 or 11 employees. We have 4 virtual assistants. I have people that do stuff way better than I can.
Yeah.
Way better. And I mean, do not put me on a 401k call, because I do not want to hear about how that stuff works. I mean, put me on it enough to know, but I'm just saying I have people that do that stuff a lot better. And it's grown into that. It did not start overnight, not even close. It's grown into those roles. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. One of the things that I kind of took from what you were saying there is, over time, you found out your genius zone work, right? Like, for those of you who haven't done the genius zone exercise, there's kind of 4 quadrants. There's your zone of incompetence, your zone of competence, your zone of excellence, and then your genius zone. Most people, they try and stay away from their incompetence, like, potentially 401k calls, those types of things, right? Where you're like, I know enough about them, but it's a low return on investment and definitely a low return on energy. All right. And then you get into zone of competence, which is, it, you could do it, but it's not good energy and it's probably a medium return on investment. Then you get into your zone of excellence. And most people get stuck in their zone of excellence, which is, you're really good at it. It's a good return on investment, but it's kind of like a medium return on energy. So if you did it all day long, you'd just be drained. But if you can find your genius zone, that's where you could do it all day long. You're one of the best, if not the best at it. And it fills you up every single time you do it. So you could go do it 8 hours a day and go home and be the best, husband, wife, mother, father, whomever, because you've lived in your energetic place all day long. So as a leader and as a team leader, oftentimes we can confuse who we are, right? Maybe we're the artist or the idea person or the big thinker or the leader, but in reality, we are acting like the operator. Right? Tom Ferry talks a lot about the artist and the operator. So understand where you should be and where your energy is. I know my business personally took off when I found an incredible operator, because I was more of the artist, but I was operating a lot, right? I was decent at it, but it wasn't my gig. And so, hearing you say that was just kind of brought that back to me. And understanding where you stand if you're watching this, and where you're spending your time is incredibly important. And then lastly is, if you're the smartest person on your team, you've hired wrong, right? You constantly want to hire people who are better than you at things and who are smarter than you at things. So you stop doing those things and you start doing all the things that you can and should be doing. Any realizations that brought to you as I was chatting about that, Serri?
Yeah, it's just, I think at some points in building this team, you become a jack of all trades to do everything, because you have to. You don't have all those people. So not to say that you don't understand these things, because I think as a business owner, you have to understand these things. But you definitely need to realize when something is just not for you, or like you said, like you can do it fairly well. I know there's things I can do fairly well, but I'm okay to turn that stuff over. And then the other thing too is you have to sometimes take that time to train somebody too. Like, don't just expect that somebody knows exactly what you want without showing them your vision and then letting them expand and grow off of that and make it even better. So, really just understanding at the beginning. So again, for those of you that are working on building a team, just know that you probably will be that everything to everything, and then let things go and be okay with it. That's really hard. For me today, it's hard. It's still hard.
Yeah, it will be. I literally just got off a coaching call with one of our team members, and she talked about control and, making sure that everything happens a certain way. And people are so afraid of any sort of deviation from perfection. And so when they hold on to it, they can make it perfect, or they can work it until it becomes perfect. And perfection is the enemy of progress. You need to let people learn and fail and skin their knees, just like, raising kids, right? You can't keep them in a bubble. And so letting go, letting your team experience the ups and downs of being in that role is incredibly important.
I love failing. I
Yeah.
actually love failing. And we've had a lot of that that's gone on. And I love when it happens, because then we have to look at ourselves and say, okay, well, how can we fix this? And then typically when you go into that zone, you make it way better.
Yes, very true. Well, Siri, to make this a little bit more tactical for the people watching or listening here, who was the first person you hired outside, so you had your TC, and then what was the first hire you made to free yourself up to go do other things?
Okay, so my order was, like I said, I had Tina and she just said load stuff on me, right? So I just started loading stuff on her. I'm heavy referral partner based. I've always been that way. And so I just had leads coming at me like crazy. And so I was like, here. So mine was a little different in that I guess you could say that she was like a buyer's agent for me,
Okay.
because I was very buyer's agent heavy.
Yep.
Um, I did have an assistant in the TC, but I had to get another one that was a lot stronger for what I needed. So, anyways, I would say that those two were tandem. I definitely had so much I had to leverage a TC, which that TC was also an assistant. So
Got
just
it.
know that, like, you have to have a blended role with that. And I brought that person in house. I didn't have a TC that was I brought that person in. I had enough business that I could afford to put that person on payroll. So TC, admin, and buyer's agent at the same time. And then from there, we brought more buyer's agents in, two or three more buyer's agents in. You have to watch how many opportunities you have, right? And so you brought in more buyer's agents. And then from there, let's see, we brought in I started to see that my TC slash admin was on the brinks of a breakdown. And so she was also our listing coordinator too. And so we decided it was time for us to bring in a listing coordinator. So we did that. And then we kept bringing in more buyer's agents. And after that, we brought in a marketing coordinator. So marketing, and I love, like, I'm a visual person, so I love anything around marketing and just kind of being the vision for that. So I had a virtual assistant that did that. That's another point too I want to bring up. If you guys are hearing all these numbers and you're like, wow, how can I afford this stuff? Go international. Like, go and get virtual assistants to help you guys with this stuff. Because I can tell you that payroll does add up pretty fast when you start adding these roles. But when you get support, I had like the virtual assistant that was doing the marketing, the social media stuff. Then you can start leveraging that. But so now my marketing manager has my first virtual assistant for my marketing department, as they work together. So I still have this person. They just work together. And so next one was a marketing. And then we brought in another TC who actually ended up being she's my operations manager now. So that's another important thing too, like, look within and make sure that you're seeing if there's any talent within the team. She actually came to me and said, hey, and she'll laugh about this because she knows this, but she's a horrible TC. And she was like, I think I should go do this. She came from HR. So she's the one that's on those 401k meetings and stuff like that. But how lucky am I that I have someone that knows how to run the business stuff? And so she came in and did that. We also had internally a girl she's an agent. I mean, she's licensed as an agent, but she became our operations assistant. And we kind of had an aha moment together where she said, I'm not really sure I'm going to be an agent. And I had been wanting to talk to her about saying, hey, I think I see you more operational. And we had a moment where we were like, oh, thank goodness we had this conversation together. So look within. And, the other thing too is when you're hiring, ask your people, ask your team, ask your vendors, put it out there and say, hey, I'm looking to hire a marketing manager. Does anybody know anybody? Because I'll tell you, in my example, my listing coordinator actually knew someone. And she goes, I know someone. And so, we were able to get that just by putting it out there.
Yeah.
And, so it really starts to grow organically. And I can also say that I've hired people that did not work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep,
and the first time I had to fire someone, I was like shaking because I'd never had to do that before. And it felt terrible. And my kids were teasing me too. They're like, you're fired. Because all they heard was that I was like firing people all the time. But it just really, I was trying to grab anybody to fill that role because it was just so heavy on me. So just make sure that you know that you're going to fail. You're going to hire the wrong people. But don't let that scare you. Like, just do it and fail. And it's okay.
We didn't talk about this prior, but as you're going through it, I think I would love to hear, and I'm sure everybody else would, knowing what you know now in terms of, hiring out of necessity, hiring too fast, just hiring anybody to fill a role, and, what you've gone through and having to then, let those people go and find new people. What do you do now? What would you have done differently, or what do you do now to make sure you're hiring the right person? What processes do you have in your hiring process to make sure that they're going to be a good culture fit, that they're going to be a good, fit in that role? I'm sure, it's not just you and me who struggle with that. So I'm sure everyone would love to hear it.
Honestly, they took me out of that role because I'm horrible.
Also smart, also good.
Yeah. I love everybody. And so I will typically meet people and I'll see the good in everybody. I trust everybody. I see the good in everybody. And so and not that they won't like run it past me at the very end, but typically I'm brought people and said, hey, I've already checked these people out. We also got in the habit of checking references very deep. Like we used to just kind of like, oh, that person's here. We have somebody. Yay, let's take them.
Right.
It rings a bell, right?
Yeah, I know that all too well. So one of the things that we do that may help some people on the call here is, whoever their direct supervisor is going to be. So let's say somebody's going to come in and work with me in some capacity. I would have the initial, we'd have them screen. So they have to, take an online disc profile. They have to send cover letter, have to send resume. We make them do some work, right? Just to get to that point. I do the initial conversation. And just like you, I'm super easy to get by, right? Because you just smile and say a couple of the right things. I'm like, they're going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
But then we put them in a panel interview with all the people they're going to be working with, right? So, if it's a loan coordinator, they would meet with our loan coordinating team lead, they would meet with our processing team lead, and they would meet with some of our, production partners or mortgage advisors. And, all those people are really going to be the ones who deal with them, right? It's going to be not much me. So they really put them through the test. They ask all the right questions. They get a good idea. And I can't tell you how many times I'm like, I think this person's going to be good. And they're like, this is a hard no.
Yeah.
Right? They're not gonna make it. And I love that, right? Because, it's a two-pronged approach. So I would definitely recommend, whomever is going to be their supervisor, do the initial one and then do a panel interview of the people that work with behind you. Because one thing I've learned is that A players do not want to work with anybody but A players. Mm-hmm. And there's this like repulsion to B's or C's or D players, and they can find it real fast.
Yeah.
And sometimes we move too fast to do that. So I think it's
I agree. And one thing that you said on there too is it's, there's departments and you need to make sure that people are reporting to each department. So that was one thing that I learned from my operations manager that she set up. I didn't have anybody reporting to anybody when I was running it. It was just a free for all. And
They
then
all
typically it was
reported to
me.
you, but
Well, that's what I was saying.
yeah,
Typically it was me.
right.
I don't know what I'm doing. So anyway, she has now set up, so and so reports to so and so. And so there's like a system for that. That was definitely not me. And so, yeah, that's really important as you grow. You're going to be that person again at first, but as you get a few people in, just make sure that you set up that structure of who reports to who. It's important.
And along your team building journey, and especially as you guys are continuing to expand in other markets or some of that stuff, what were some of the roles that you didn't realize that you needed that you're super happy you have now, that you may have hired earlier if you would have known?
I honestly didn't know the whole operational manager role was that. I thought I was it, and I thought I was doing a great job.
Yeah.
No.
So you would have hired operations managers sooner.
Yeah, I would have got someone in place to put in that structure, and to really make it turn into a business.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some fines that we had to pay because I didn't even register it as a business. I didn't know what to do. I just didn't know what to do.
I think it's a awesome segue kind of to our last part here, which is at some point you had to change from a real estate professional to a business owner,
Mm-hmm.
and from a real estate professional to a leader, right? Which the two are not always synonymous. How did you do that? Right? And obviously it's always a work in progress for all of us, but how did you change, and what did you need to do? What did you need to learn to become a great business owner and a great leader of your team? And then why is that so important for people to learn early on in the team building process, as opposed to going through what you and I likely went through, which was figuring out a little later than we would have liked?
Well, yeah, I mean, the organization and the structure up front is important. I think it's easier said than done. I will preference is because you typically, when you get to that point of building a team, you have so much business that it's hard to just even find a second to be able to do that. I would say make sure that and typically at that point too, you're making pretty good money. So you should have enough money to be able to leverage yourself to hire the right people. And so I would say that I should have had that person earlier in the process. I just didn't know what that part of it looked like because I couldn't slow down fast enough just because it was so busy. I had so much coming at me. So I don't really fault myself in not the way that I did it, I think is fairly normal. But if anybody is, looking at this and saying, how can I avoid the pitfalls? Definitely, look for somebody that can start that business end of things a lot earlier than most of us do, because we're just flying by the seat of our pants. But with that being said, don't let it stop you from doing this. Don't have paralysis in doing this, and know that you're going to get there regardless. I guess I never pictured myself as being a business owner. I own an escrow company too now. And
Yeah.
so I'm not just a business owner in this. I had no knowledge in how to build that business either.
Yep.
But I asked questions. I went to people that have done it before and I asked them questions, and I got linked up with people that then told me where to go. And I'll tell you, the whole thing's painful, but I asked questions and I set myself up to be that. I didn't go to school for business. I I went to school to be a mom basically. And so me falling into all this stuff has really been just leveraging other people. And even as a leader, I lead with other people. It's not just all circled around me. There's other people that do the trainings and do that are better, that get on and do that stuff. So I don't even honestly know that I'm the best person for all of it, but I know that I'm approachable and people like me, and we have a good time together doing this. And so it just works. So don't question yourself, just go for it.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there. As you were saying, I looked over. I keep this book close to my desk at all times, called Who Not How. And everything you were just saying there was exactly that, right? Because most people think, I want to accomplish X. How do I do that? right? And the operative word is I, right? And they think, how do I do this? As opposed to, who do I need to work with to make that happen? And I promise you that will change your whole life, not just professionally, but personally. And you have realized that beautifully. And that's obviously why you're thriving in both of your businesses now. But if anybody wants a copy of that book, if you're a real estate agent or a lender, just email us at the Insight team at neohomeloans.com, and we will send you over a copy. But I think that book will change a lot of people's lives, because everyone uses this ego of like, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this, as opposed to letting ego go and realizing, not only do I not need to do it, I'm not the best person, I don't know how to do it. Let's find someone who is, or let's find a group that is, and let's partner, and let's do some incredible things together.
Well, and Ryan, I think you did the same thing I did. Our team names were our names at
Yes.
one point, right?
Yep.
I went through I'm on my fourth name, you guys, in 4 years. And the other names were all around my personal name. And that was fine and dandy because people knew me when I first started my team. People knew me in North County. I've been around for a while. But really, it became so much about me that I didn't want that to happen. And so we ended up changing it to the brand, Brandy, because it's not about me. I'm here, and I'm, a vocal force for the team, and I'm here to support them. I want to be their biggest cheerleader, but I want leaders within the team, our team, like collectively our team. So it's not just my team, it's everybody on the team. It's our team together, because there's people on the team that know stuff that I don't know. I mean, I have a guy who does stuff with income properties. I don't know much about that stuff, and so anyways, I think you went on that journey too. And I'm not deterring people from having their name in the team, but I do really think that the progression starts to become, and the ownership starts to happen when it's not around this focal person. That's just my personal opinion. When we changed that, I saw our stuff explode, and I saw our agents and the people, they just really took more ownership when I took myself out of the equation.
100%. It's so well said. I mean, you should start with your name for sure, right? Because it is you in the beginning, and there's not much of a team, and you are the brand, and you need to be. But when you reach a certain level, or when you see yourself and your vision is a certain level, it can't revolve around you. And I remember, I was able to transition out of production in 2018, but it was still the Ryan Grant team. And so even though I wasn't talking to clients and my realtor partners were talking to my team the majority of the time, I would still get a lot of calls and, hey, what's going on here? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why am I getting, oh, that's right, it's my name on everything.
Yeah.
Right. So inevitably Ryan is going to get pulled back in. And so not only did I want to do it for, autonomy, but I wanted to do it for agency. I wanted the team to have agency. And now we have a phenomenal new team leader, and an incredible team of people that are all rallied around, that our new brand, the Insight team, very similar to the way you've done it, Serri. So I think that's a really good thing to mention. I don't know if I would have caught that, but it's a good awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a progression that we've experienced growth in.
For sure.
Yeah.
So 2 more things before we leave. One is, creating a team is great, right? And creating scale and being able to help as many families as we possibly can in the best way we possibly can. But there has to be some level of value and differentiation that your brand encompasses for your team to thrive, and for the people on your team to be able to have that mission, right? That just cause, or that vision that everybody can rally around. Like, everyone on the team needs to tell the same story.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be, focused on the same unique set of differentiation that they can talk about that other people can't. What are some of the things that you and your team focus on that make you different, that make you more valuable than the next? What do you rally around, or what's your cause from your team's perspective, that not only helps from the agents or from the client side to say yes, but helps all of your team feel united and, more of a patriot than a mercenary?
Yeah. We have our core values, and so that's important to build that. And as growing a team, you're going to probably change your core values a little bit. I know we did. We adjusted them a little bit as you go. But we make sure that we present those core values to the agents as often as we can. So when we have, all of our meetings and stuff like that, we always have that within our slides. So we want to make sure that everybody is following what makes us our nucleus of who we are. And it really starts with those core values. And I had to sit down one day and just what I did is I said, well, what am I, because it starts with you, right? You're building this. So I started to write down all the things that I felt like I was doing to make myself, loved by the clients. And so responsible, right? And reliable and responsive. And so I had all these things that I wrote out. I also looked at my reviews and I said, what are these clients doing? Like, what are they saying in these reviews that said that made why they chose me or why they like to work with me? So I started there. And then you start looking for people that fit those values. And then once you start doing that, you start getting that vibe. And we've had to let go of some people that maybe didn't fit that vibe or we thought did. And then, you find out it doesn't work, or you can get one or two people in and it just kind of throws it off. But really starting with like what that vision looks like. So, that was just really important for us. And then to relay that out. And so I still see those reviews because I'm not really selling so much anymore either. I'll do a few past clients here and there. But typically when the reviews come in, I'm seeing the same things for my agents.
Yeah.
We have the same responsives. So, that means it's the right match for us.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. And then lastly is there may be some people on the call right now that are thinking, look, it's good enough. It's fine. Why should I go through the headache of building a team and the hassle? And it sounds like it was a lot of work. What was it? You probably didn't know it then the same way I didn't, as I was building out the team. But if you could go back and tell yourself from 2017, all the reasons why you'd have wanted to do this, what would some of the top reasons be?
Why I wanted to build a team, all the top reasons I wanted to build a team. I knew that I loved real estate. For people that know me, I wake up in the morning, I go to sleep, and it's pretty much all I think about. And so I knew that I needed to do something bigger and create value for more people than just myself. And I had trained myself with a lot of tools and knowledge without even knowing it, just by doing it. And so I think it's just really cool that that there's people that now have jobs off of this, right? Like that never had them before, or people that I've met that I would have never known. And just how important that is, to get started and not look back. So, again, back to the whole implementation thing. One thing I also wanted to throw out is one thing that we're going to start doing, because I am at the point, I love paying back. And I've had so many people that I have reached out to over the years. I'm not afraid to just ask somebody, hey, you look like you know how to do that. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Would you mind telling me about that? And I've had so many people that have said, absolutely, sure, no problem. Like almost 100% of the people that I ask are always willing to help me. So I am at the point now where I have a lot of big visions of things that I want to do, but I'm at the point now where I want to give back and pay it back. So we're going to start doing more things to be able to provide value to people and pay it back to them. And I have no problem showing stuff that we've built, different systems and forms and you name it. My team knows that I love forms. So we're going to start giving back to people too. So I just want to preference the importance of reaching out to people that have done it and asking them for help. And most of the time people are going to share. They're going to share their stuff. So I'm willing to share my stuff with anybody, that needs to see what we've built. Yeah, maybe it took us 6 months to build it and I'm going to give it to you and you're just going to run with it. That's cool. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, first of all, it's incredibly kind. And I think the abundance thinking mentality that probably helped you get to where you are today, right? There's a lot of people who ask me the same question. I'll get up on stage and talk for an hour about one thing that we've done step by step. People are like, why do you give away your secrets? It's like, well, first of all, not very many people are actually going to do it, right? But the ones that do are great because we make the industry better. Right?
Totally.
We can create a better mortgage and real estate industry for our clients if we all up level our game.
Yeah, we all need to work together. We're all a team. So that's the thing here, really, all of us are a team together. So as much as we have our mini teams that we have, we're all a team together. And so really helping each other out is really important.
Yeah. I think that there's, for me and for most people, there was really two reasons. One was growth and the other one was freedom. There's a study that Real Trends did over, 5 years. It showed teams, whether it's agents or lending teams, grew 42% on average, whereas individual agents, individual lenders, actually their volume went down by 18%. It's just clear that the client, even now, think through, like, clients are actually choosing convenience over profit or over revenue, right? Like they're choosing, a worse outcome just for convenience, right? Not saying we want to give them a worse outcome, but if you don't have a team, you're almost going to have zero convenience for the client, right? And you just can't scale that. And then lastly is just the freedom aspect of it. There's another quadrant thing that I like looking at, which is, if you're an employee, you have a job and you get paid by the employer. It's very clear. When people become self-employed, they sometimes mistake that they are business owners and that's freedom. Being self-employed just means that you're the only employee of a company, but you're still an employee because nobody else is, if no one else is there, no one's making money. And so don't confuse being self-employed with freedom. When you get to become a business owner, right, that's when you have a team of people and a group of people that can actually earn revenue and advance your cause or your mission of your company without you there all the time, right? You still want to be there as the leader. You still want to be there as the mentor, potentially as the operator, but you don't need to always be there. And that's like really the stage you want to get to. And then Serri, kind of the stage that you're at now, which is really business owner. And then the last quadrant is investor, right? So you're an investor in, in an escrow company that you own. You're also an investor in your real estate business that you own. But now there's real freedom there, right? Some of it's passive income. It gives you the ability to earn income and move it into other areas. And now you have, real financial freedom, real scalable opportunity and growth. And, the money is great, but the freedom is what really people are trying to accomplish.
And I think the freedom, when I hear you saying that, the freedom for me is to create more things.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not, I think sometimes you could think freedom, and this is fine, you could do this too, but freedom to just go travel the world or something like that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not at that point. I just think the freedom is to be able to then say, okay, well, this is running pretty well over here. I mean, don't take your eye off of it or anything, but now let's go do this. And now I have the freedom to, really create something that never existed before. And so now let's go create this. Okay, well, that's doing the same thing. Now let's go create this. And so again, I never went to school for business. I didn't learn all of this stuff, but I am starting to understand things a lot more as I go. And so usually when you start businesses, you can replicate those businesses once you know the system. It's pretty
cool. It's a playbook that usually works across multiple different mediums. And, as you talked about, freedom is not always looking down and in, which is usually where everyone is in their business. They're always just in it, right? Freedom is the ability to look up and out. Right? It's to look into the future, is to look at what's happening in the market, where it's going, where it's headed, what we need to do, what changes we need to make, right? And then what ancillary businesses or services would tie in well. So I love that perspective on freedom. It's just, you can do a lot with it, but, one of the most important things you can do is, continue to innovate and grow and be unique. So I love that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell the crew? And thank you again so much for your time. This has been awesome. And I know everybody here and online on social media has gotten a ton out of this, but anything else you want to end with today?
No, I guess just I'm here if you guys have any questions to preference on the payback. I'd be happy to pay back. I mean, and thank you to the people that have given me so much, of information. And for those that I even have people lined up that are ready to help me with some next level stuff. So anyways, just reach out to me if you guys need anything or you're just getting started, or I'm a great listener. Becoming a real estate agent, you become a little bit of a therapist. So I'm a great listener with stuff and I can help you guys if you're just struggling on what to do. So
it sounds like you're growing your team in multiple different areas. If somebody was interested in inquiring about becoming a part of your team, learning
Mhm.
from you and your team, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best way, honestly, on Instagram. I love social media. You can find me on Instagram. So it's my name, Serri Rowell, at Serri Rowell on Instagram. Just send me a message. I actually did just get my broker's license in Utah,
Ah,
which is where
yeah.
I'm from. And so I'll be eyes, my site is up in Utah, but I'm aligned with a brokerage now where I can expand into different areas. So Utah's my next vision. So
I
anyways,
will.
just reach out to me on Instagram. That's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you
Yeah,
there. I'll be in Park City in August.
I'll be there tomorrow.
Nice. Very cool. Well, good. All right. Well, Serri, thank you again for your time. Everybody watching, I'm sure you're just as excited as I am about this information. Reach out to Serri on Instagram if you want to join her team, learn from her team, and I'm sure she'll continue to help as she has today. So, Serri, thank you again for your time, and
You're
thank you
welcome.
everybody for being here.
Thanks, Ryan.